Just give me a second. Hi everyone, hope you all had a great lunch. I think it's working. Let me just check really quickly. Yep, it's working. Okay. Yeah, so I hope you all had a great lunch. Today I'm just going to be doing a very, very quick introduction into React hooks. It's quite a new addition to React. I think it was implemented very, very early this year. I think you need at least, it shouldn't affect us, but you need at least version 16.8 to do this. So if any of you have installed React a while ago or you haven't updated it, just make sure you update it if you want to try it out yourself. Otherwise, React hooks wouldn't work. So, yeah, so what actually is hooks? Well, hooks, in general, it's just a new addition to React which lets you use state and other React features without writing a class, essentially. And many of you are familiar with using class from writing stateful components, but with React hooks, that's no longer necessary. You can now write functional components using state and lifecycle events. So yes, just want to quickly say a few things before I get started. If you look at the React hooks FAQ, there are a lot of hooks on there. Okay. So here are all the hooks that are available. I don't know how to scroll. So yep, these are all the hooks that are available. I will be going over the use state hook because it's the one that I feel we're going to use the most. And given the interest of time, I've only got half an hour, so I think use state would be the best one to cover. So in my workshop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go over a class component, and then from that class component, I'm going to try and recreate it exactly the same using React hooks. And that way you can see how React hooks are being used and how it's being modified and everything. So, and if I have time, I might show you guys how we can answer some of these questions using React hooks and Kuduri training platform. So yeah, let's begin. Okay, so what I have here is a very, very basic class component. It's just a counter. So every time you click add count by 1, it adds the count by 1. If you take away by 1, it takes it away by 1. Everyone still with me? No? Yep. All right, cool. So in a normal class component, you would usually have to import component first, and then do a class component with a constructor and a state. And then here we just have a button. Each time you click it, it will add the count by 1, and each time you take it away, each time you hit the take away by 1 button, it will take the count away by 1. So with React hooks, you can I'm just gonna comment this out so you can compare the differences between the class components and functional component with hooks. So let's begin. So first thing you want to do when using hooks is to import the useState hook. That's what we're going to do now. So I'm not used to this keyboard, so just bear with me really quickly. Okay. And then now we're just going to create our functional component. So function app down here, and we're going to export default the app. Okay. Now before I get started with implementing hooks, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly set up the return statement just to make sure we have everything in order. So what we want in here is parent div. Then we want something like a header tag which has hello world, and then in here would be we'll have a button where we're going to make it we're going to call the button add by 1, And down here, we're gonna do another button. How do you do? I'm still trying to figure this out. But yeah, take away by 1, okay? So, oh, we also need a statement which shows the actual counter itself. So we're just gonna do, for now, I'm just gonna put counter and semicolon, okay? So that's what we got. So, you see, for class components, we had to use a constructor to declare our states. And well, with hooks, you can use state in this functional component here. So, just to show you really quickly, to declare a hook, we're going to use const, then an array, and I'll explain more about this in a second. I'm just going to quickly set this up. But in this array, you need to have 2 elements. So we'll just call it sets states and set states. And we're going to use the use state hook. And yes, here we go. So within the use state hook, it uses something called array destructuring, where the first element here is the state variable. So think of it more like setting a state using constructor. Yeah, so it's pretty much similar to this here. You're just setting the state, and in this case, I call it state just to make it easy to understand, but I'll change it to count in a second. The second element is a function to update that state variable. So think of that as set state, which is why I kind of labeled it here. And the use state hook here, it takes the initial value of the state variable as an argument. So whatever I put into here is the initial value of the state. So in this case, I can just put in 0. Essentially the same as this. So I'm just going to quickly rename it. So it's just making sense at the moment. Is everyone still with me?
Does that mean the first state is 0?
Yes. So it's the initial value of the state. So I'm just going to call it set count, okay? And the reason why it's not showing is because I haven't actually stuck it in here yet. But before we had to do something like this.state.count to access the value of the state. Well, with hooks, you can just simply do this, count. You put in the name of the variable here, the state variable, okay? So, what was that, Walter?
No, sorry.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were asking a question. Right, so yeah, so that's what you need to do. So when you're just trying to access a state variable, that's all you need to do. Now when it comes to setting the state, what we want to do is, it's very, very similar to what we do with class components, but it's also a lot easier as well. So here, just to show you real quick, I'm going to do on click. So every time we click it, not an array, but on curly brackets, every time we click it, sorry, this is just getting in the way. Instead of doing something like this.setState, we can simply just do set count, and then we can put in state variable count plus 1. Okay, and just to make things easy to see, I'm just going to put this down here. Just going to quickly reorganize the code. Yep. So it should be working. So there you go. Each time I click it, adds by 1. And I'm just going to do the same thing here as well. On click. So every time we click it, sorry, I just can't see. I'm not used to this device, bear with me. Set count, and we want to take the count away by 1. Okay? Put this back here. Ooh. Okay, sorry, just give me a second. Yep, there you go. So, does everyone understand so far? Are there any questions? Cool. Okay. So, perfect. Okay. Yes. So we can also do something. We can also set functions in similar to how you got functions inside class components, like this. Add count. Instead of just putting in add count, I'll just show you real quick. You can also do something like this. So you can also create a function instead of just putting it within here. You can do something like function add count. In this case, you have to specify function, because before we could just make do without specifying function at all. But in terms of React hooks, and because it's a functional component, we have to state function. And then all we have to do is simply do set count plus 1. In here, before we would have to do something like this dot add count. Now we can just simply do add count, and there you go, and it should still work. Okay. Another way of setting the function is const.
Sorry, Gawah, sorry.
Yep.
Why didn't you need the function caller the parentheses?
Simply because it's a functional component. It's just the way it works for hooks. So if we take away the function here, it won't work. It's not like class components, how we can just simply declare it like this. We have to state function because it's a functional component. It's not a class component. If that makes sense.
So this is because you are using hooks. This is how you do it.
Yes. I'm just going to show you another way of doing it instead of just declaring function here. I'm going to show you another way to do it really quickly. You can also, if you want, you can also do const, and then we could do take away count, and then we can make that equals to like this. Does this look familiar to any of you? And then same principle, we just do set count minus 1. Okay, and I'm getting confused with the trackpad. Yep. So all we have to do here is just simply state take away count, and it'll work exactly like a class component. So here you can see the difference in code. I mean, this isn't really necessary now because it's something that's very simple that you can just put it in line of the on click. But eventually it would be, if you want to do something more complex, you can use these functions. So just compare the differences between the code. I can't really don't know if I could show you properly, but you can see a class constructor in this case takes up a lot more space. It takes up a lot more lines of code than a React hook. So this is just an alternative to using class components, essentially. Yes, is there any questions? Have I lost anyone? Is this good? All right, perfect. All right, so before I carry on, I'm just going to quickly set this back. So I'm just going to quickly delete this again, just to make things easier to see. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to use those functions for something this simple. If you're just setting count like this, it's a lot easier to just do count plus 1. So it just makes things a lot easier. What is this? Too many renders.
Because you are calling.
I am calling.
I think
It's the arrow function.
because
Okay, yes. You're right. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay. I don't know what's happened to it. What's happened to this? Okay, something's weird's happened. What's happened to this? counts. Did I just break everything? Ah, yes. Let's try refresh. There you go. It was just a simple case of refreshing. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the class component and I'm going to modify that class component. And then again, I'm going to recreate it again with hooks just to show you what it can do. So, just going to take this back. Sorry. Just bear with me for a second. Just going to paste this back up here. Okay, let's just check if it works. Now, what if I want to do more than one state? I'm going to show you. I'm going to quickly create the class component again with another state, and then I'll do the same thing with React. So here, let's say I want, I don't know, what do I want? Let's say I want to create an input field, okay, for entering a name. And I'm just going to put input type equals to text. So what I want to do is to type in my name in here, or whatever I put into here, and have it display up here. So I'm just going to quickly do something like this. Hi. I'm just going to put as 3 dots for now, and then yeah, this is my counter. Okay, for now. Okay, so let's just create a new state for now. So here, let's just create name equals to empty string. And here on change, oh, sorry, give me a second. On change, actually let's create a, actually no, we'll leave it as that. On change, we'll just do, we'll leave this as curly brackets for now. We'll create a function up here, and we'll do something like set name inputs. And here we'll do this dot set states, and this time we'll do name and then e.target.value. Okay, and we'll put the event in here, and here we shall stick in the on change. So this dot set name inputs in events. So I don't know if this is making sense. Can you guys see that well? I might just read. Okay, essentially whatever I put into here, oh my bad, this dot sets, yeah, I thought I was on hooks there. Yeah, so essentially whatever I put into here, I want it to come up here, essentially. And that's what I'm going to recreate with hooks. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly comment this out really quickly. And let's just comment this one out as well. And let's bring this back. Sorry, bear with me. So let's just stick this back up here. Okay, so here's our hook. So before I get started with implementing another hook, let's just quickly work on our return section. Here, so here we'll have something, we'll have a name, we'll have a header tag, and we'll stick in name, and we'll stick in, just to make things easier to see this time, we'll stick in inputs, type equals to text, and we're just going to close it for now. And yes, and up here we're going to do something like a hi dot dot, and this is my counter. Okay. So to use another hook. So with hooks, you can only declare one state variable at a time. So in this case, we've declared the state variable to be count. We want to use another state variable, we have to repeat again. So you have to do const. Here we'll call the first state variable as name, and we'll call this set name. Okay, and we'll do use states and empty string. Does someone want to give me a name, or should I just leave it as empty string? I'll just leave it as empty string for now, I guess. So, yep. So instead, it's the same concept. So instead of doing this.state.name, I could just simply put in name. And then on the input, the onChange. It's very, very similar to class components, where we can just simply just do events, and then we do just boxes in a way. Set name, and then we'll have name will be e.target.value. So why is this not working? Ooh. What have I done here? Let's see. Set name. Oh wait, hold on. I don't need to do name here. Sorry, I keep getting confused with class components and hooks. So I don't need to put a name. I can just simply do set name, because set name is assigned to name. So whatever I put into here, it'll work. And that's basically it for use state. Does anyone have any questions? You guys have been really silent.
And you have to study.
Yep, does this make sense though? Does everyone understand the concept? So, yeah.
I have one question.
Go for it, Walter.
Can you set, for example, the name? You can,
Oh, yeah.
An object. Can you set it as an object and use it like?
Well, you gotta think of this first variable here. This essentially the same thing as this dot state in the constructor. So I haven't tried it with an object, but we could see. But let's just try it as Walter. No, it probably doesn't work. So it'll come out as undefined. But if I set the initial value to be Walter, then there you go. That's the initial state variable. So, and I can change it to whatever I want. Like, I don't know, Brexit, I don't know, anything. So, yeah, Luigi.
As you mentioned, like, apart from the syntax that obviously seems like a different approach from the stateful component, is there any other benefit of using hooks? I don't know, performance or functionality or?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Luigi asked me if there's any benefits to using hooks compared to a class, essentially. And it's essentially, it's a bit hard to say, because right now it's a massive debate online about whether hooks could replace class or not. But I think it's kind of down to preference as well as a few other things. I mean, it's like ternary operators and if-else statements. They both do the same thing, but you kind of written a little bit differently. In my opinion, though, if you're using hooks and you have a lot of states essentially, and you've got a lot of life cycle events going on, I think it's best to do class. I haven't mentioned it here, but with hooks you can also fetch data like you do in class components. So you can fetch from the backend, but that uses a different hook that uses use effects. which I'm not gonna go too much in detail about because I'm still learning it and it's quite complicated. But yeah, essentially, I think if you've got a complex component, class is always the best way to go because hooks is still quite new. It's still in the works, so people aren't completely familiar with it. But if it's something that's really, really simple, like this, then I think hooks would be a great alternative. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yep.
Simple. What happens like if you don't use methods coming from a hook? Like I don't know if you define a name like set count and you just assign directly in a variable.
What do you mean? I'm confused. What was your question?
Const count. So if
Yep.
you just I don't know count equals count plus 1 and you don't use a method for life cycle.
So you're saying if I
Yeah.
don't use this hook?
If it's set count, if you have just one button, just directly assign count equals count plus 1.
So you're saying if I could just do something like count plus, instead of using set count here,
Yeah.
I just simply put in count plus 1. I've not tried that, but let's try it. So you're saying something like this, count plus 1.
Count equals count plus 1.
Count equals to count plus 1.
Or yeah, count plus yeah. And you need the still arrow function. Oh yeah, that could be probably.
So you're saying something like count arrow function count plus 1. Let's try it. It does not work. I don't think it'll work because it's with this. It's a hook method, so I think it's kind of confined to here. I mean, if you wanted, you could always set the initial value here. So yeah, you just have to set the initial value here, and you just have to set the count value from set count onwards.
Yeah.
So. Does anyone else have any more questions? If not, we can move on to the Kaduri training platform and we can try and apply this. Is everyone happy with it? All right, sounds great. So, let's go. Let's maximize this. So let's do a really simple one. So with just one thing to mention, if you're going to try this on the Kaduri platform, you have to import the use state, simply because it's just one of the things you need to import, but the Kaduri platform doesn't have it automatically yet. You just have to simply type in up here, import use state from React. So the reason why we don't do React then use state is because React's already imported in, but usually you would, but in this case we could just do import use state to import the React hook into the system. Okay? So, yes. Oh, you want to make it bigger? Give me a second. Let's just try this. Oh, that's too big. Is this good? No? This? Is that better? Okay, great. Okay. So, instead of using class components, we're going to use the functional component. So, in this case, it's asking for the component to be called input. So, we'll call it function input. And here we'll have a return, okay? So, before we dive into the hooks we need to use, let's just quickly set up what the question's asking for us. It's looking to find, if I can just... It's essentially looking to find an input. You can't really see it here, but if I just zoom out, is that better? Could you guys still see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially looking to find an input with the type text. So we're just going to quickly set that up. So input, then type equals text. Okay. Now, here we can start using our hooks. So essentially it's saying that once the initial value has to be Peter, and then the event changes Olivia, and it has to show Olivia essentially. So just to quickly pull it up. So first it's expecting Peter, then on change would be Olivia, but I'm just gonna leave this as empty for now, which I'm gonna fill in a second. So here we're gonna declare the hook, so const, then we're gonna have the array. What should I call the state variable? Anyone got any suggestions? Yes, name sounds good. So we declare it as name, then we'll declare this as set name, and then we'll make this equal to use state. Okay? So the initial value it wants is Peter, so we're just going to put that in there really quickly. Peter, and what we can do is here we can just simply put in curly brackets name, and then on the onChange we just simply need to do events and set name is equal to e.target.value. Okay, and I'm pretty sure this will work. And line 4 needs a semicolon. Yeah, I think this is good to go. We'll see. Yep, and there you go. Thanks, guys. Thanks. So if any of you want to try, you can implement using React hooks for some of your React trading if you want to try something new. But yeah, essentially React hooks it's still in the works. It's something that the React team is looking to build more and more of in the future. So it's something to definitely keep an eye on. But yeah, I've just barely scratched the surface. I mean, oh, what did I do? Okay, I tried to. Oh, my bad. Yeah, like there's still a bunch of all of these hooks that I don't think I have time to cover. But not only can you use these hooks, you can create custom hooks, and it gets a little bit confusing as well, which is why sometimes it's best to use class components. But for simple stuff like this, it's best, well, using hooks is a great alternative, essentially. So, yes. And, yeah, does anyone have any more questions? Am I out of time? I have no idea what the time is.
Excellent.
But, yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, well, thanks for listening to my workshop, and on that note, I'm just going to end it there. So, yep, thanks.